Hello, Mr. Tessone. We all know you're a pioneer in research in cryptocurrency and blockchain. So you also have a PhD in physics. So how and what sparked your interest from physics to blockchain?
During my master students and then also during my PhD, I was doing research on an area that is called complex systems, that is related to statistical physics.
Yeah.
And complex systems are those that are composed by many constituents whose, because of the interactions that they have, exhibit interesting emergent properties that you cannot infer out of the individual behavior of each one of the units. And a typical example of a complex system is our human society, because we are many interacting individuals that exhibit very large scale behaviors at the societal level. And that's why during my research I became interested in socioeconomic systems. This was how I finished my PhD and how I started to do research in an economics department. In 2013, 2014, I became aware of Bitcoin originally, and I found it fascinating because it was an encapsulated economy, a closed economy, in which multiple participants leave continuously the traces of their behavior, and you can link in these blockchains the microscopic behavior with the global scale properties, and this is where I started to do research on this space.
Like right now, the talk is all about AI. Right? Like before this, we had cryptocurrency and blockchain and all those. So like, would you care to explain to a person who doesn't have tech background, like without all the jargons of blockchain, could you explain to a person what blockchain is?
Yeah. So blockchains, first and foremost, are not just a technology. They have a technical infrastructure. They are a technical infrastructure, but it's a technical infrastructure that is trying to align behavior of peoples. The idea is the following. In 28, 29, some communities wanted to create a distributed payment system that has no central authorities. What I mean with that is the following. When we are using our credit cards to execute payments, our credit card is verified by the central server. And this is why the transactions become valid and we can buy stuff. Exactly. And general are banks or other financial institutions or card issuers.
Yeah, so as you are the co-founder of University of Zurich Blockchain Center. So what exactly that blockchain center do actually? What is the aim you thought about it in the beginning, and how is it going on right now?
Well, I think that one thing that is important, as I was starting to explain, is that blockchains work because of economic incentives on top of a technical infrastructure. Moreover, once you have developed all this complex socio-technical system, there are regulatory issues that appear. So you see that if you want to understand blockchains, you need to encompass many different disciplines. So what we are doing at the Blockchain Center is to understand all the implications of blockchains from completely different, in an interdisciplinary fashion. An interdisciplinary fashion means that we do not look through different disciplines, but that we combine the disciplines together in order to generate knowledge in the area of blockchain.
So as I am studying digital transformation right now, so is it possible for someone to combine digital transformation and life sciences together over there?
Yes, absolutely. I think that there are digital transformation is something that is encompassing absolutely all the areas of our life, and I think that um, uh, there are different elements. For example, large scale data collection, analysis, storage, and the implications that it may have. Because, for example, you can have increased transparency, for example, in the workflow or in the evolution of a specific uh, produce, for example, is something that is a very interesting application and in which digitalization is playing an important role.
So in blockchain, actually, every most of the colleges now are teaching blockchain actually. So what do you think? Like, is should be taught in a college or school about blockchain, which is not right now is not implementing actually, like something which is really relevant, but the colleges are not really providing it.
You mean like disruptive technology like blockchain or AI comes up and then like people are still not aware of those new technologies and they're not upskilling themselves with the latest technology. So how can one do such a thing or how can this change happen?
So I think there are two aspects here. On the one side is it is nice that we become aware of the different technologies that are emerging. It is also important to understand how we can use them, but on top of that, which are the implications of them. And the implications are more societal than just developing the technology itself. I think that one thing that we have to try to do as educators, and also the students should claim more, try to see that this is more apparent in their own curricula, is looking beyond what it implies to develop a new LLM, a new large language model. We need to look into which, for example, how business processes are affected by them. And this is something that is completely, in which development is irrelevant at the end of the day.
Recently, we had like the cryptocurrency bubble burst. So, is blockchain still relevant today? And if it is, like, what is the main implications and uses of blockchain?
I think that
because blockchain is always considered with like cryptocurrency, right? Like, what are the other uses and use cases of that?
I start saying that actually, I think that blockchains were very maligned because they were heavily associated with cryptocurrencies, and I think that this is a wrong. Perhaps it is the original sin of blockchains that they were the original applications that were cryptocurrencies and financial services created because of wrong design. Several bubbles, one after the other, one larger than the previous one, each one larger than the previous one, and this created the flawed perception that this was only about speculation, etc. Blockchains go far beyond that. Remember what I said before. Blockchains are systems that allow to align the behavior of individuals into the way in which the designers want. So you can do a lot of things there. You can do, for example, you can bring transparency to data silos, for example, as we were explaining in the example of life sciences, but it can be applied to many other contexts. Certification is another interesting area. The other is you can have very interesting governance models for communities in which all the decision-making process becomes as well transparent, and then you know that there is no collusion between parties, and you can resignify what the weight of a specific vote means, actually. So there are very interesting applications, and this is why I think that the fact that the speculation receded a little bit during the past couple of years is helpful for the ecosystem to better focus on more world-changing applications. And one of the projects here, like for example, interspecies money, is one kind of things that may emerge out of this.
So, is there anything like what is the roadmap for you? You will say for blockchain to get into a career in blockchain. What will be the roadmap actually?
If you want to get a career in blockchain, of course you would need to understand the technology at some point, but this is just a starting point. You need to understand a lot of economics, actually. Blockchains are based on several
statistics.
No, they are based on a set of incentives that are placed inside of them. So you need to know game theory, you need to know market design, a lot of areas that relate of how do I place a specific ways of incentivizing behavior in such a way that the system eventually works as a whole. And on the other side, the other thing that is important, is looking into governance processes. Understanding social systems actually is very important for blockchains because blockchains by nature are distributed systems in which multiple participants contribute to them. And understanding social mechanisms is actually a completely non-trivial and plays a completely non-trivial role also in the area of blockchain, which makes it also a very interesting and appealing area of research.
So, like, is blockchain really a well-earning field?
Pardon me, is it blockchain?
It's a well-earning field.
Not perhaps depends on which area of the bubble it catches you.
I noticed that you're part of the editorial as a non-financial section. Like, why is it the non-financial section of the?
this is the question that several editors asked as well. Because originally most of the applications were finance, and then this was a way of encapsulating everything else. I think that it was an editorial decision a few years ago. I think that now it changed into other applications that are highlighted, and not only as a negation is not always a good way of framing something.
So what's the scope of like financial?
The reason of why blockchains become also popular is that there were a lot of financial services offered on top of blockchains, which you can naturally implement. And interestingly, there are a lot of services that you cannot implement in any other system that is not a blockchain, like decentralized finance, for example, all protocols that allow you to trade in an automated fashion without needing very large scale markets to form, and always have, a priori, if they are created correctly, fair prices for whatever you want to do. The problem is that with this, it also came a danger that happens of the way in which the protocols are implemented on blockchains, which is once you implemented a protocol in a blockchain, you cannot change it. And as I told before, blockchains are all about human behavior. And once we learn how something works, we also know how to break the rules that have been fixed.
Great that you brought up danger, because it's leading to my next question, where basically the famous dialogue, with great power comes great responsibility. But there's always a bad side to the good. So the transactions are not being tracked. It can't be tracked. So is that a good thing or a bad thing? What are the cons of blockchain and the bad?
Transactions can be tracked actually in blockchains, and we have been doing a lot of research on blockchain forensics, and we spend a lot of effort in trying to, for example, cluster together the different identities that the same individuals have, because I think this is a very interesting area of research. Actually, it's also another thing. Remember that I said when you asked which are important use cases of blockchains, one of the things that I said is transparency. I think that this transparency is fundamental, and exactly the fact that all the transactions are recorded in a public ledger is what should make exactly the systems crystal clear to anybody.
Secure also, and people can't like hack into it, because there are two copies from the receiver and the sender.
Exactly.
Yes.
But then the point is that once you have all this data in a trustworthy environment, if you are thinking of entering and doing investments in digital assets, so you can know correctly which is the status of all the market in which you want to participate. The problem is that on the one side, some of the markets do not have any incentive to bring this level of transparency to their clients, and on the other side, the clients do not know that this kind of this kind of systems have these features because they are not properly advertised. Actually, transparency should be something that should be actually a driving factor to use much more blockchain. You know that one of my PhD students is doing a research on what is called wash trading. Wash trading is something that happens not only in crypto art markets, but it also happens in real art markets, which is we start to exchange a piece of art always at an increasing price, with the expectation that at some point someone else will think that it's a very interesting piece of art and will buy it at a very inflated price. And what is interesting is that inside of a blockchain, you see a lot of this wash trading happening. And the point is, if he wants to buy from us this piece of art, in a blockchain, he knows that we have been doing that because he can see all the previous transactions. In a real art market, you cannot. And it happens a lot as well. So the point is actually, we should all transition into a market that is as transparent as a blockchain, because it is helpful as well for the final users.
So as like a blockchain is a very diverse field, right? So is there like any government regulation which stop blockchain to go forward? Like, is there any how the government can work with blockchain?
No, it is very difficult to impede that the blockchain works. I think that there were some states, some countries, sorry, like the United States, that were moving very slowly with respect to regulation, and I think that this hindered all the development of the space. The problem is that at the end of the day, you cannot do much to stop the technology because the technology has a lot of very interesting value propositions.
I mean, on a national level, it can be, but what do you think about an international standard? Do you think there should be a harmonized approach towards it to for the
Well,
government to control the blockchain regulations?
I don't think that you can align all the different governments into having a common regulation. Also, having a standard for blockchain is something that would hinder innovation, I think. I think that interoperability across blockchains is far more important, and perhaps the standards of interoperability are much more important. With regulations, we will always have a diverse uh, visions from different countries. I think that at the end of the day, many countries need to understand that blockchains are far more than ways of scamming unaware people of this. That is also the perception that some of the governments have taken. That's why they were very reluctant. And I think that it also comes from an aspect that is still severely missing. That is proper education about what blockchain is and which are the features it has is something that is severely missing at the population level. And I think that also decision making in some cases perspires this.
Any final advice for individuals or businesses who are looking to adopt like blockchain technology? Like where can they go? Like where can they keep up with the trends and things of blockchain and cryptocurrency?
Well, we of course at the Blockchain Center produce a lot of material and have a lot of very interesting events that are exactly to better understand blockchains and are always available. Absolutely, and actually we also have a very active. All our events are hybrid, something that we learned from the pandemic. But what I would say is, I think your question is difficult to answer immediately because information related to blockchains in general, trying to find information that is unbiased is very hard. I think that's the usual thing. I think that the only thing that I can tell the people not where to search for information, but where they should be aware that they should not search information for. And I think that there are most of the information that you will find online is going to be severely biased and scripted towards a specific narrative. And I think that that's a fundamental problem, as well as communication that a lot of the blockchain-based systems have. I think that now there is after all the last bubble exploded and this crypto winter, there was a rising awareness, not of everybody in the community, but of a larger fraction of the community, that at the end of the day, the fact that one of the platforms is doing well is also benefiting the whole ecosystem. And I think that this transition towards a more nuanced approach of communicating is happening, but it is still not there. So I think that the most crucial thing is, and this is exactly why so many people were defrauded by blockchains and products based on blockchains, is because they were in an uninformed manner believing things that they were finding online. And this is exactly the most dangerous things that you can do here.
So, what are the projects you're working on right now? Actually, we didn't go into that.
Well, I am working on different areas of research in my team. We have several. As I said before, we are doing a lot of research on blockchain forensics, also in collaboration with some law enforcement agencies or with companies that are in the same space. We are analyzing real world cases and identifying fraudulent behavior, etc., exactly to bring transparency to the markets. We are interested in the design of economic incentives for blockchain-based systems and the design of platforms. Recently, one of my team members became a part of a committee that is setting up the parameters that specify the consensus is one of the blockchain-based systems. And we have been doing this for several others. I have also other people that have been helping to design consensus protocols for other blockchain-based systems. So consensus and the design of the system, something that we are really active on. Blockchain forensics, I was mentioning as well, cryptoeconomics, and then blockchain analytics as a whole. I am still, your question before was, how is it that I started to look into blockchains? I was interested in looking at blockchains because it allowed me to see how the microscopic behavior of agents eventually translates into large scale properties of economic systems. I am still doing that, and this is now blockchain analytics, an area in which we are very active, and we are developing always new indicators and so on to better understand the economic functioning of these systems, because economic function is fundamental as well.
Now with AI and all, like, what are the industries which can disrupt blockchain?
Which are the industries that can disrupt blockchains? Well, I think that obviously I won't have a very easy answer. I think that AI is certainly an industry that's going to be revolutionized as many other aspects as well, blockchains, because in blockchains you have something that's called decentralized autonomous organizations. You can put the full logic of the organization inside of a blockchain if the organization is not managing tangible assets, but only logical ones, digital ones. You can put all the processes of the organization inside of a blockchain. And if you have engines that allow you to act automatedly on everything, it's a huge game changer.
So you're talking mostly like AI and blockchain integrating together to.
Absolutely, this is going to be a very interesting.
But don't you think that AI will dominate blockchain over there?
No, because you need the blockchain. Remember, blockchain is the thing
Yeah.
that aligns the behavior of individuals or agents. Okay, so at the end of the day, you need the blockchain to have behaviors aligned, and AIs are going to be the means by which these behaviors get aligned or get coordinated.
So it's gonna be like sensors and actuator. Like they are the
in a way.
information and they are the implementation.
Correct. Yeah. One is the mean by which all the other entities interact.
Yeah.
Anyway, great having this great chat with you. You took out all the technical jargons of blockchain and then
Thank you.
and it made it easy for us to understand as students.
Thank you very much for the question.
Thank you so much for being on our podcast.
Thank you for the
And
question.
we also have a blockchain course actually in future. So what do you think it should be there? Because
Well, I think that, as I say, that you can look at the syllabus of my course. I think that when I teach blockchain and cryptoeconomics together, because I think that looking at the behavioral part is fundamental to properly understand blockchains and look at them from a completely different angle. I think that you can look into hashes and look into how the cryptography behind works. At the end of the day, this is a set of technical constructions that allow us to do allow people to behave in a way that blockchains work. Because if people would not be behaving in the way they behave when they use blockchains, you would not be able to trust the information that is in the ledger, and this is fundamental. And this is thanks to the way in which the blockchains were designed from an economic perspective.
Thank you.
Please, thank you.